Thank you all for joining our back to school webinar. For those of you that have joined today, I wanted to start with introductions. So my name is Natasha and I look after the Africa and Middle East regions. You'll also see my colleague Luke, who looks after the rest of the world. It's so nice to see you guys here today. So for the webinar, you will see the Q&A chat box where we welcome you to input your questions. Luke's going to facilitate this at the end of the session. And of course, I will do my best to answer all of your questions and follow up any bespoke emails personally after the webinar as well. So if you know me, you know Luke, you know that we do our best to make sure that we can answer all your questions. And today we're going to jump straight into the webinar. So of course, we're going to look at the ExactPath platform. We're going to look at best practices as well. Please do feel free to use the Q&A session because it is going to be super helpful for us to answer your questions today. It might be helpful for somebody else that's joined from elsewhere in the world as well. So let's jump into ExactPath. Today, we are looking at the NWEA map upload where it is a manual version, but then we're also going to look at the NWEA API integration side of ExactPath. So there are three main steps that we're going to look at. First of all, I will make very clear what is going to be relevant for you, regardless of which input of data you have for your subscription. Okay. So the first area is rostering. We'll look at the academic year and setups, especially the test windows. We all know how important that is going to be and the importance of your unique student reference numbers or their NWEA reference numbers. It's also super important for us to understand how to facilitate the manual upload versus the API integration side of ExactPath. We'll look at best practices, classes, and also if we get time, we will recap some areas where you are able to support teachers in terms of class management, login management, and back to school challenges. So let's jump straight in, shall we? Okay. So I'm going to log into my ExactPath demonstration account. It looks exactly the same as what you expect for ExactPath, okay? So first off, in terms of the rostering side of ExactPath, it all sits within the administration center, okay? So the first place we want to go to is users and manage. In this section, it hosts all of your users, whether they are admins, whether they're instructors, or whether they are students. And utilizing the filters on the left-hand side, if you're just looking for something quick, is going to be helpful. The way in which we're going to walk through how to refresh your rostering file is to do it in bulk. So from this point on, we want to export. What this is going to do is it's going to download your data in terms of a spreadsheet, a CSV file. Now, with this CSV file, we're going to do a multitude of different things. So the first thing I need to do is to just pop on a filter because I'm actually going to focus on the learners first. So in this section, I want to look at column F, which is role, and I just want to look at the learners. Now, as best practice from my perspective as well, we want to make sure that all of these columns have an entry for your students, okay? And where we're really going to focus our time is column G, which is status, the grade column, and also the system ID number, which is your student's unique reference number, the same number that they will be used to identify in NWEA. We're going to use that same number within ExactPath. So first off, we want to look at grades, okay? So I've got a multitude of grades. For me specifically, you want to work from the highest grade level down, okay? So many schools will just have cycle 1, many will have cycle 2 and 3 or whole school. So you always want to start at the highest grade level first and work your way backwards. For me, I know that grade 12 are no longer going to be part of the school. So I want to change the status from active to inactive, okay? We don't want to delete or remove any entries from the spreadsheet. The system won't make the changes that you're hoping it will. So we want to use active or inactive to tell the system these students no longer need access. Okay. Then for all other grade levels, you can then just work your way from 11 to 10 to 9. The idea at this point is that you are telling the system those students that have left or in the grade levels, they're no longer part of the school, they're going to be removed. When you move all your students then from, say, grade 8 to 9, 7 to 8, so on and so forth, you're then making those changes grade by grade so that you can enter in at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you can continue to add new students at the same time. Okay. So as long as you fill in and populate this form exactly as needed with all the mandatory fields in input for the students, you can edit the existing students and you can add the new students. Going back to the top here, we want to then go to account admins and instructors. Now, something that is slightly different for these users within this spreadsheet is the password field is blank. It's a security feature. It's not something that we will see for these particular role types. So if you are making any changes to your teachers, to your admins, even if you are just changing the grade, you will need to input a password. It could be something as simple as to let them know what that password is. They can then go in at a later date and change that themselves. As long as you make sure that all those mandatory fields are in there for all your instructors, all your admins, and your students, you can make all those changes in one place. Okay. You want to then save this as a CSV file, and you want to come back to ExactPath because now we're going to import that file in one go. So hover over users and go back down to batch processing. And this will allow you to then see the upload tab so that you can import that CSV file in one go. Once that is done, you will see all the entries for all the updates that you may have done if you've had a subscription with us. It will say completed or it may say completed with errors. If it does say with errors, you can download this spreadsheet. It will tell you line by line what might have had an error on there so that you can go in and correct it. So in terms of rostering, when you export in bulk and you batch process to re-upload and refresh your class list, you will then be able to see those changes within the manage section. Okay. So you can double check, have I got all my learners? Have I got all my instructors? So on and so forth. There is one other area that I would suggest as best practice to double check all your users have access, because we know that technology sometimes doesn't run as quickly as we do. So when you click into programs, this will then give you ExactPath and you can double check, am I seeing the same volume of learners here as I was in the screen before? If not, what this does is it allows you to just double check for your instructors and program admins, is everybody enrolled into ExactPath? So if you have any teachers saying to you, I've used my username and password and I've logged in, but actually I'm not seeing ExactPath at the top, it means they're sitting here. So my colleague Nikki has reached out to me to say that. So I just need to enroll Nikki, enroll the other demo teachers, and that will then correct for those people. You can then do the same for the learners as well. So for this student here, once they've used their username and password, they're seeing a blank screen. So we just want to push those in via the program section. So to recap, downloading in bulk, you can upload and refresh your rostering file in one go, and then just double check this area within programs. You can, as you move through the academic year, keep maintaining the rostering file. As we know, you do have students and teachers that can be movement throughout the academic year. So if you just wanted to create a user individually, that's this button here. Or if you need to make any edits or adjustments to an individual student, you can search for them. And by clicking actions and edit, you can make those changes. So that is the same process, whether you have the manual upload version of ExactPath or the API. So let's jump into exact path, and we're going to look at the academic years and test windows. So we want to come over here to the settings tab on the right hand side. Okay. And the first place we want to go is here, academic years. Now, I like to explain that the academic year is your access on and off rather than your full academic year. And I'm going to tell you why. Within this space, you always want to ensure that your end dates for exact path are accurate. Some schools will use their end of year dates to reflect in here. If you want your students across the summer and any downtime in the summer still have access to the previous academic year, just whilst we wait for their fall assessments, then I would welcome you to keep the end date up until a few days before they're expected to sit down and take their first assessment. With this, what that will do is it will keep the access. So ideally, if your students sat their spring windows, they'd be working on their most relevant, their most bespoke learning path up until they sit their fall assessments. They will then get a new learning path. Okay. So if you know what those dates are in terms of the testing windows, that's going to be helpful for you to make that judgment at this point. You do also have the standard setup. All of these should still remain the same unless you have changed state standards or anything like that. And then you also do have your auto generate learning path button here as well. This is to cover any students that join the school partway through the year. It is optional, but if they join partway through the year, but they've missed taking an assessment, they will get an on-grade learning path. So it will start on the grade level they're at, and it will become more bespoke the more content and the more skills they work through within their learning path. It gives them time to then prepare when they then sit their first assessments with you guys in school. So then we want to jump into test windows. Again, this is the same in both versions of Exact Path. We start with academic year, then we jump into the test windows section. What this does is it allows you for that academic year to set up how many test windows you will sit, whether that's fall, winter, spring, summer, whether you're just doing fall and spring or fall and winter, you determine what those dates are. But there is a caveat. These dates must match the dates that you have input for the start and the end of your testing period for each window within NWEA. The idea with Exact Path is these test windows, and I would give yourself a buffer of a couple of days at the start and the end of the testing period to allow for any makeup tests, any early starts of the assessments. It gives you that time then to just double check and ensure those windows are accurate. We can do what needs to be done within Exact Path from the back end. So you'll input test window 1, 2, and 3 if those are the ones that you have. It will have helpful reminders just to make sure or give you some reassurance that you're on the right track. Okay. So once your academic year is set, you've input your test windows. We always recommend to do this as close to the start of the academic year as possible, just so that you're set up and ready to go, and then your teacher training and your teachers can get started. For those of you that have Exact Path, but the manual upload of Exact Path, you will have this button here that says NWEA data import. Now, this pertains to when you are uploading map data, come fall, come winter, come spring. Okay, so this is not including those that have the API integration. So I want to be super clear at this point. For this data import, as a refresh, because I know you guys, you know how to do it, but as a refresh, everything I'm going to say verbally is written here. However, when it comes to uploading the CSV file, we need to make sure that you've got the right one. So it's the NWEA comprehensive growth file that you're looking for. You don't have to edit or amend the file itself. You simply upload, grab it, and push it in. Okay. One thing that you will need to double check, and I'm going to use a sample file in terms of map data, is you're going to need to double check that the window you're uploading the data into corresponds with the test windows that you have. Okay, so we're looking for the term name, but also you want to double check the test name to make sure it's showing you the relevant state standard that you follow, because that's going to become important when you're uploading within ExactPath. So again, you don't need to make any changes within this CSV file. We just need to make sure that when you are uploading, we are selecting the right state standard. So we want this on. Each time we're uploading into a test window, this needs to be on. Give it a name. So whether it's fall upload, winter upload, whether you prefer to do it grade by grade or class by class, you don't need to, but if you prefer to do it that way, label it so you know what you're looking at. And then here, the state standard. So I know CA is California, so I'll be selecting California. For those of you that do Common Core, we have all the states listed in here, including the NWEA Aero version as well. So you're going to select the state standard that is relevant to you. Now, you also want to make sure that you select every single test name, every single one, okay? There are changes that happen quicker than anyone really anticipates. So to make sure that we grab every single test name that may be applicable within your file, we want to select all of these, okay? From here, what test window are you putting it into? I'm putting it into test window 1 because that's 4. System ID and import. It's as simple as that. You will then see all those uploads underneath. It will allow you to unselect, make them inactive if you think actually I've made a mistake or I just need to double check something. You can delete them, but you can also download to just double check, do some sense checking within the platform as well. So that process to upload the comprehensive growth data file, the assessments from NWEA, we stick it into this tab here, which is the data import. Now, for those of you that have NWEA API, it looks slightly different, which is why I am, instead of the data import, it will say partners instead, okay? But everything else remains the same. You do the academic year, you do the test windows, and then you log in to API. There's nothing else that you need to push in terms of the data. Our system communicates with NWEA itself. To give you some reassurance, the way it works, if I simplify it a little bit, is from your roster file that you've refreshed, when your test window opens, we open the door to NWEA. We say, on this roster file, for all these students that we have available to us, what data do you have for us today? We pull, it's not a push from NWEA. ExactPath pulls it into itself and connects all the data. So for every day that your students take their assessments, regardless of how you've scheduled it, the sync is going to happen on a 24-hour cycle, okay? And I believe it's 12 o'clock CST, okay? So we will pull that data in for every day that your students are taking their assessments, and you'll be able to see that within the Partners tab as well, okay? So in terms of the rostering, the academic year, the test window setup, and also how we're manually importing or just making sure the test windows are correct for your API, that's everything that I wanted to kind of walk through. Now, some of you may or may not be responsible for classes. A lot of schools will kind of have 50-50 split, whether it's the teacher's responsibility or whether it's the admin's. So within the My Classes section, you can pop over here to Manage Classes. It will pull up your name and any classes that you may have some association with, where you've been added into that class. To do a quick refresh, I would welcome you to click into this button and scroll to the bottom to All Instructors. What this does then is it highlights every single class in the school. You can select all and archive. This removes the classes. You will not, and I want to reassure you, you will not delete any students. You won't delete their data. There's no deletion that is happening. We're tidying up the classes. So I want to reassure you, all their data is saved elsewhere. All we're doing at this point is we're removing the class and we're starting fresh. So any teachers that have created teacher assignments from the previous academic year, it's not going to follow your students as they move through to different classes for this academic year. Once that is done, we can then create a class, and it's very simple. Work your way from the top down. Give that class a name. Keep it the same naming conventions that you expect to see on the reports, that you expect to see in school, to avoid any confusion. And you can simply add in the instructors as well. If there's anybody else that you need to add, you can type in their name, whether that's teaching assistants, intervention groups, whether you have pull-out sessions where it's led by somebody else, an SLT, of course, because we all like to have visibility of classes and data. You'll input the school name and the grade. To search for students, use their name, use their system ID number, or you can use the grade level here and then simply click that plus sign and add the students in from there. Save it, and it will take you back to this page. For those of you that know, you will then have class login cards. So teachers will be able to provide reminders of username and passwords for their class. And there is also an easy login process as well, which will enable us to, instead of using text, especially for younger students, instead of keying in the letters for a username and password, the easy login card is generating imagery instead. So you have different options to enable that. But if we do use the easy login process, select on save, because this is the URL that you will use instead for that class. So all in all, in terms of best practice, we just want to make sure that you have everything that you need to get up and running from an admin perspective, but also helping any teachers if they need help with classes, login management as well. I would recommend for anybody that maybe has an admin role, but you're also in a teaching capacity, create your back to school challenges. Definitely do that. It helps your students to get up and running quickly. And for me in particular, I'm very competitive, so I love a chance to win something. So you can click into challenges and you can create that back to school challenge, whether that is a physical reward, it could be a bag of sweets, it could be certificates, it could be stickers or badges. There are so many different ways that you can use these. You know your students better than we do. So definitely get them up and running. And it can be so simple in terms of back to school. And I only want to make this available for a week. Just run it for a week. And I want them to log in, and we'll use time as the metric for this one. I just want them to spend 5 minutes within ExactPath, and it's an easy win. It's an easy win for you to see engagement and just make sure everybody is logged in, especially if SLT are asking you, have we got engagement? Is everybody in? Is everybody looking as it needs to? This is a great win for that specific occasion, but also gives your students something to work towards as well. So I'm going to come back to the presentation now, because I want to talk to you about summer updates, okay? So with our back to school ExactPath updates, as you very well may know, we do a lot of our updates in the summer months. Some of them have come a little bit sooner than that. So within ExactPath, we've got our impact report, which I'll walk you through in a moment. We've also got the admin dashboard, which has got a whole host of different updates where you can now pull data out of that specific area. So if you're looking at engagement, if you're looking at time being spent within the platform, it's a quick link into all of those areas. We've added more curriculum specifically for grade 6 to 8. And we're looking at math and reading in that regard. But then we've also added teacher resources. You can never have too many resources to support your teaching team. So we have skill coverage. We're looking at math and reading, which is coming in February. But we've also got a lot of standards alignment. So we're always looking to develop and keep on top of all the standards that we invest within ExactPath. So I'm going to talk to you now about the impact report, because this is something that is new as of around January 2025. Some of you may have ventured into it, some of you may not. Now is a great time to jump in and have a look at the previous academic year's data. Okay. So with the impact report, what this is helping you to do is it's helping you to combine your students' NWEA map assessment results, as well as all of the growth, all of the progress that you're seeing within ExactPath. And it's pushing them together to tell you and give you an answer in terms of the impact that your students, the positive impact that your students are having in terms of their personalised learning. So when it comes to ExactPath and how this works, it is providing you with different graphs. So you can look at the school, you can look at an overview of classes or a cluster of grades. And we want to make sure that you have all the tools that you need so that you don't have to go into different resources and pull a spreadsheet together. It's all there, readily packaged, ready for you. So when we're looking at the guidance of how, you know, the base, the foundation of how the impact report is created, we're looking at 40 minutes per subject per week on average, for students to be highlighting growth. Now, that's not all in one go. That's bite-sized manageable chunks. The impact report is going to show you what that is doing, okay, and what that looks like in terms of growth. So it is banding how many skills students are working on or have worked on in a specific time frame, where you can compare fall and winter, winter and spring, fall and spring, the different combinations that you can look at. So with this, it's going to give you the average test growth in points, RIT score points. So you're not having to do any further calculations there either. It's going to compare the test windows and give you an average score. And it's also going to combine and tell you the students in the specific banding of skills. So we recommend 8 skills or more to be worked on per semester, loosely term, on a regular basis. You're going to have students that are way over and above that number. So this is going to be so interesting for you to be able to click through and see and prove, is ExactPath having an impact in terms of not just students' overall learning and their personalised learning, but also in terms of their assessments. So you will be able to look at those results, prove its effectiveness, and also scale growth across the school if you're a group of schools across the group. So it's super handy. If you would like a deeper dive in terms of the data side of your account, do feel free to reach out to myself or reach out to Luke. We're happy to walk you through. We like to look at data as well. So it's always helpful if you want to reach out to us and let us know. Some of the other updates that we have is in terms of translation and also text to speech. So in terms of, you know, when we're talking about translations, we want to make sure that your students don't have to stop and type what they need to be translated. So we have improved this area for you guys. With the text to speech as well, we're highlighting different words. We've got a large bank of different languages offered. So it's super handy now, especially for those students that are utilising ExactPath for the first time. Maybe they're in an older grade level as well. We're having that extra support. So it is for over 75 different languages. We've got different variations in there as well. But this is across courseware, ExactPath, grade 6 to 12, standards mastery as well. So we've got a whole bank of support readily made for you in the platform. Again, any questions, reach out to myself or Luke. Now, another thing that is helpful within the platform, it is available to you, it sits within the Purple Help Centre, is the guide for student growth. Okay, this is a document, it is a worksheet that you can download at any point in the year. You can use it at the start of the academic year and then use it to forward plan You can pull it out at the end of the year. But the idea with this document is that it is helping in terms of growth. It's intended to support your educators when it comes to optimizing exact path, optimizing progress and growth. So whether you prefer to have paper copies of that demonstrated, you can download them at your leisure. So those are the main updates that I wanted to kind of walk through at this point. That is everything in terms of exact path, whether you have the manual upload, whether you have the API integration as well. So I'm going to open it up now in terms of our Q&A. So Luke, do we have any questions that need answering today?
Yeah, we've had quite a few in terms of been submitted in, which is really good to see. Some of them you've already kind of answered later on. So for those that did those applicable questions, please do reach out if any of that did not make sense. For example, there was questions on to give more information on the impact report because they must have seen it prior to when you were discussing the summer updates, as well as looking at sort of how best to use sort of the challenges system as well. And I think you gave some great ideas, especially with that back to school as well. But some questions that haven't been sort of answered yet or haven't got round, or those that have come in multiple times. So could be great to sort of say it on this platform. This is more for NWEA API sort of integrations. They're asking specifically on that partners page where it says sync history, should the auto sync every night be on? There's a switch that basically says, should it sync every night? Do you suggest leaving that on?
Great question. So I'm going to log in and show you what it looks like, where it sits, and why it should be on. Okay. So let me open that up. And I will just log in for you guys here. There we go. Okay, so jumping into exact path. Okay, and I'm going to go across to settings. So your partners tab, right where it needs to be. So over here in the sync history, auto sync every night should be on. It should only be off at the very initial point of you first onboarding exact path and onboarding the API integration. Then we're going to turn it on and it's always going to be on. And the reason why it needs to be on is because we need the sync to happen regularly every day for those test windows that are open. If we're not syncing every day, we're going to miss data for any students that do makeup tests, any students that are scheduled to sit and do their assessment. It's not going to be pulled into the platform, as I mentioned, that mechanism of the pull. That's not going to happen if this sync isn't on. So yes, leave it on forever.
Great. And the other one that was kind of said was regarding, well, it's sort of a two-part question, but may end up for you going in the same area. One of them being, is there any guides to assist them along with this? For those that are in the call, remember, along with sort of this registration link for the webinar, you may have received your checklist with that. So there will be some helpful guides in there. But to parlay that into the help centre, Natasha, there's also been some questions about sort of rewarding students, such as like certificates. Is there any posters, trackers that we have available for our schools to use?
We do. Love that question. So in the Purple Help Centre, this is pretty much an electronic version of myself and Luke. So if ever you're not able to reach out to us for whatever reason, the Help Centre has everything you need. So within here, you'll see the back to school updates, what I've just talked through, but you've also got your learn and support site. It does, however, break it down a little bit better in terms of educator resources, exact path students, trophy, challenge trackers, family resources. It's got a whole heap of resources that you can pull. Now, specifically, if we're looking at challenge trackers and trophies, we've got a whole host here. They all do different things. Now, for me specifically, I prefer to go into the learn and support. And the reason why is because in this link, it's like you can see here, it's got everything. So setting up your windows, it's looking at your learning paths. But if you click here into students and families, especially if you're wanting to communicate with parents, communicate with guardians about what Exact Path is, get up and running in terms of back to school, you've got printable materials, which is super helpful. So if I click on here, These are all the things that you can download. I know that you guys have amazing kind of display boards within the classroom. Some have, huge hallways, and you've got different certificates and competitions running. All of these are going to be helpful for you in that regard. These are downloadable, so you can print these as often as you need. There's no limit. So if there's something that you like, whether it is themed for specific cohorts of grade levels, whether you're looking for unthemed, but you've got challenge trackers, you've got a student that's struggling on something bespoke to them, and actually you just want to give them a chance of moving forward and motivating, we've got individual challenge trackers. It doesn't have to be whole class. It could be a small group. You've got classroom coupons, which I love as well. And these are different. I'll open them up actually. These are different things that can help, especially for the younger students, help motivate. I saw that pop up. No homework. I would have loved a chance to win that one. But you've got homework help, you've got great listener, so a laugh pass, all these different things you can utilize with your students. And of course, you've got the editable certificates as well. So if you're wanting to have certificates that have exact path on there and you want it to be bespoke, you want to type in what they've been awarded with, you can do that from here. So yes, your Purple Help Center has all the resources that you need. Yes.
Perfect. I think that's pretty much it in terms of trying to generalize just there. But yeah, I think just to kind of reiterate what Natasha said, I think if you are doing any of these challenges or certificates or trackers, please do let the both of us know. We love to kind of see what great work you're doing and sharing this internally within the team. So yeah, just kind of a call out for that. But apart from that, no other questions.
Okie dokie. Fab. Thanks, Luke. So again, thank you so much for your time. If there are any further questions or you would like to schedule any follow-ups, please do reach out to myself or Luke. These are our contact details. We are here to support you. We are your dedicated success managers. So no question is small or silly. We welcome you to reach out. And yeah, thank you all so much for your time. Have a great rest of your week.